Hello everyone, it is HoenchoAnimation here, and today we will be going over Zatanna versus Scarlet Witch. And if you haven't watched my Scarlet Witch or Zatanna video, then please go do that. This video was made specifically because of Death Battle. Not just the fact that I think not just the fact of whoever won or lost, but the fact that they are very terrible at giving evidence for anything. Like the scaling being used for both characters were terrible, and just whack. So I'm here with my bro coach master. He helped a lot with the Scarlet Witch video, and yeah, we'll be going over who wins without an equal stats, and we'll discuss who wins with an equal stat. Coach, how about you introduce yourself?
A lot of you may know me already from this video if you watch the Scarlet Witch scale. What we'll be talking about is basically a little bit of a reiteration, going over different things that may have not already been talked about, just to give a better idea, even on a more basic level, for both these characters. For me, I'm going to be talking about Scarlet Witch, Honcho. We'll be talking about Zatanna, and we'll see how things turn out.
All right. So, do you want to give the opening, or I should give the opening with Zatanna? How do you want this to go?
Um, yeah, could actually you go first? Because I don't understand VC as much as you. I think it'd be a little bit easier
All
to get a little
right.
bit better grasp of things.
All right. All right. So, let's start with the fact that Zatanna is pretty powerful. That is not even anything up for debate. She does scale above the Lords of Order. She scales above the Lords of Chaos. She's basically like a rival to the Upside Down Man. And for a while now, everyone has been up with this debate for years now of like Hecate, who is more powerful, the presence, yada yada. But I'll just brief up certain things about her powers, and which I did in my How Powerful is Zatanna video, which you should go check. So starting with like the Lords of Order and Chaos, I mean, magic in itself in DC scales up to the level of the source and even higher, through the collective unconscious, which is the whole point of like imagination, which can shape creation. This has been shown in Swamp Thing Volume 2 and Animal Man Volume 2, where we have like Buddy Baker in his fight with what is the name of this dude? Anyway, he had this fight where with this dude who is as powerful as God, or rose to the power level of God, and creation was at stake. So he had to go through like the totem, which is part of the major connection of his power source, to like use imagination from the source itself actually to recreate all of creation. And Swamp Thing is the same thing. The Parliament and the True Green. The True Green follows this Jungian archetypal concept of the Yggdrasil, which is so powerful that like even in Lucifer 2000, they're like, if the world tree gets destroyed, all of creation is gone. Michael, like the world tree is so powerful that like for Michael to contain its power, Michael had to literally kind of die and even give out his powers, right? So, and Michael is not far fetched behind Lucifer in terms of quantification of power scaling, not far at all. So you just imagine that kind of thing. And even Lucifer took serious damage from the likes of Finrare, who was going to destroy the world tree and even take the role of God. So the Yggdrasil is pretty powerful, which is linked to the green and the parliaments of trees. I mean, if you're talking about just the parliaments, you have the rots, you have the green, you have the parliament of life, you have the parliament of worlds, you have the parliament of narratives, and even like the parliament of worlds, like where you can link to every form of planet life across the multiverse, be it the god sphere or any sphere. I mean, the green does extend beyond the god sphere even to the level of the other place, which is where the other kind of upside down man comes from, and that is beyond the dark multiverse and the light multiverse. And that's insane levels of power, bro. That's like perpetual level of existence type shit. And such is just an extension of what Upside Down Man, like a casual extension of his power. Um, so talking about like the parliaments and stuff, like the parliaments of narrative, like even going to the level of being able to rewrite all forms of narrative, be like on the overvoid. That's some crazy shit, bro. So, and the thing is that all these majority of these things is linked to magic, right? Everything is just belief. It's just the same way uh upside down man had to believe, like he believed that his power was absolute and divine in that realm, and he is created from Hecate. And all this is very impressive because even concerning people like older versions of Zatanna who was able to um fight within like all of creation had ended totally, and you had Pralaya who is beyond Hecate and all I just mentioned. Even calling her a god is an insult, which includes that of the presence. And Zatanna was able to challenge this, right? And that's how far you can even get like the context of like magic and how really powerful that is, and that definitely skills like boundless in DC concerning how the cosmology is. And Zatanna is not someone to joke with. The fact that her magic is based on pure belief is insane, and she has like the highest level of belief you can get. Like this is really dangerous because if she really does believe she could probably be above the presence with enough of that, she will. She did the same thing with Upside Down Man and transcended him. No joke. Yeah, and that is really good because even like talking about people like Blight and like the presence, like Blight is like the dark opposite of like what God represents within creation, and Blight's existence was based off of belief as well from the collective unconscious, which is pure archetypes. And you know these characters just keep advancing, and you have Zatanna scaling easily from anywhere from like high alto verso baseline to like high alto plus and baseline boundless. It just really depends on how much she's ready to risk using her powers, because magic has a cost in DC. Everything has a cost in DC. So sometimes they're really cautious of how much magic they actually use. It's not like they cannot go balls deep, but the more magic you use, the more repercussions you have. Like Zatanna is facing the cost of holding the upside down man within her, right? That is the cost she has to pay. Her father Zatara paying the cost of being tortured by the other kind constantly. Sargon the sorcerer, one of the greatest sorcerers in DC, bro, was literally decaying but couldn't die in the great darkness, right? And it's just insane, bro. And you have people like Mordru, Merlin. Oh, bro, Merlin, who is the son of Belial, the brother of Etrigan, but yet he's so powerful that he could easily create a spell that could outrank Lucifer and even, right, destroy the universe. And this is not prime Merlin. This is a dying Merlin. Current Merlin in the comics, bro, is just insane. He's like rivals beyond people like Yuga Khan, which is Darkseid's father, and he revived the true essence of magic itself, which was from Earth, and has power beyond any magician who has walked the Earth, which includes even the pure magic and horror itself, Upside Down Man, and he does scale above Zatanna. But yeah, and that is Zatanna who is like in base form, because Zatanna could hold her own against him, and Zatanna is actually above the Upside Down Man because she can contain his power within her. It's a bit difficult, right? Because the more power she uses, it's harder to have enough to hold him. So she's kind of at a disadvantage there, and if she is able to unleash the full might of that, you're talking about something that will destroy all of DC Comics to the level of the source easily. Well, that's just a brief up of what Zatanna is. If you need deeper context, go watch my Zatanna video. Coach Master, let's see what you have to say about Scarlet Witch.
So, Scarlet Witch, for example, one of the examples I like to use is she's relative to characters like Chaos and even Order. Even on a basic level during like Jim Starlin's run, or even things after that. One of the things to understand about Chaos and Order in general is that without them, eternity ceases to exist. For example, we know that in What If comics, or even if you don't consider them canon, we know that Master Order and Lord Chaos exist kind of as a duality. If Chaos doesn't give movement and Order can give without being form, eternity actually ceases to exist. Other things to really understand about Chaos and Order is that they do represent where they are represented at the highest realm within multiverse, and this is obviously in context to eternity. Now, then like a more basic level, we know that the negative zone is the peak of dimensionality, and when we're talking about dimensionality in space time in general, these things are widely ambiguous and they're left not like specific. In the negative zone itself, it's actually the peak of material existence, and going beyond it actually means you're entering into abstract realms, and even space and time beyond that is abstract in itself. So, affecting anything beyond that, even though it goes into like universal and even high universal when talking about the context of Marvel, and likewise turning back to Chaos and Order, at their realm, which is the nexus of reality, it exists beyond dimensional, the myriad of dimensions and physical and astral realms, whereas in context, it's the wellspring of existence and all dichotomies, like for example, dualities, basic standpoint. We know it also eliminates all levels of existence, dimensions, universes from this place, as we've seen in the Thanos quest back in 1990. It's also in this realm, we see that infinity and eternity stand within infinity. Obviously, this is in reference to, this is in reference to universes and the multiverse itself and the various layers being transformed there. And so already you're getting to hierarchies of infinity on even a more basic level. So you're getting beyond the concept of dimensionality, like I referenced prior with the negative zone. So beyond that, we know that the other, I'm moving on to other things like the other, who's a vessel of Chthon, which we don't necessarily get the idea of until after Chthon is trapped in Wonderworld, and he actually uses the other as a vessel. Now, the other as a vessel, character-wise, Schreier defines him as a being of the collective unconscious who uses thoughts and belief as a task. And this is something we see generally in the Thor 2011 annual prior to the Thor 2012 run, I believe. And what's important to understand about this is that the other and Schreier were actually fighting for billions of years. Time had actually become an illusion, which was explained in the video already that Han showed me. The importance of this is that when Schreier in the 1999 Spider-Man will actually threaten the divine commandant, which is the Fallen Stars Adam. This is important to understand for a few reasons, because one, Adam Padmon is actually the tree of life in Marvel. Now, this isn't made specific or very obvious, as in the Kabbalah teachings, we know that Adam Padmon is actually the tree of life itself, which makes sense because in the teachings it actually represents Adam Padmon as the image of God, which is also a reflection of man. And this has made sense with us by Gamadas, for example, who during his earlier runs in the Marvel, he actually described Adam Padmon as the archetype of man. Now, this is important because we know that Adam Padmon during Strange Tales in 1990s is the dreamer and the dream simultaneously. Now, what this means is that in the Nexus we have the divine creative dream state, which all things emanate from the Nexus point up to the boundary, which is the dark shore. In this case, we see in Valkyrie being fostered, the Nexus would actually extend up to the far shore, and Schreier was a threat to that. However, more importantly, it was a threat to the man thing, which again is a tree of life. And the tree of life, even like manifestations of it, for example, in Asgard, if you destroy that, it literally destroys all of creation, with the exception of maybe Gaia, the demiurge, which is the sun, and you have Amchu, which is the moon. Beyond this, you have the Kether, which is the crown atop Adam Padmon's head. This is important to understand for a few reasons, as there doesn't exist just the Kabbalah, which is the tree of life in Marvel, but also exists the Clip-Off, which we see a little bit explained in the Immortal Hulk, but not necessarily to its complexities. One thing to understand is that in Immortal Hulk actually elaborated on that the Thaumiel corresponds to the below place, which is Hulk, and correspondence can mean a few things. can create a bot, or it is that thing. In this context, it actually is referring to the blue place, which is Hawk, and not Hawk, I'm sorry, the one below Law. And in Ultimates, we see actually during issue 100, when we have the Galactus, Ego Prime, for example, all these characters that are going to be outside, we know that it's actually not as hard as the one above all, as explained by the one above all himself. We know if you're talking about the below place, which is the antithesis to the above place, which in context would be the avatar of the one above all, which is the true outside. These things would be at the very peak, which is the below place being the Thaumiel and the above place being the Keter. What this means is that Adam actually extends up to that high. And looking at it from a cosmological view, beyond the far shore is actually the mystery, and beyond the mystery would be the next place, and then beyond that would be the above place. Just going from a more basic standpoint, this is obviously Adam Padmon, and like I mentioned prior to that, Scryer is actually a threat to the fallen stars of power, divine man. And we know that the other was capable of fighting this, and we know that the other is more like an aspect or vessel of the fawn. And as explained by Honcho in his video, actually, even we know that the wand have actually absorbed the true Darkhold and the fawn's true form. This is more of like a complex approach to Wanda scaling, as it's arguably the strongest form of scaling. Using chaos magic and things of that nature. We know that these things actually stem from the life force itself, as explained in Children's Crusade, also explained in Scarlet Witch 2016, Trial of Magneto. It's in a lot of these contexts. A lot of people seem to miss these things and kind of not associate them, or they don't associate them at all. I think they're different. This generally the scaling that would get the Wanda really high. Now, to better understand where this kind of fits in with one another, we know that the neutral zone is a singular universe within the exospace. The exospace being where this entire sonic omniverse is the very edges of space and time itself, these concepts and science. But these things in and of themselves are actually abstract, because if you remember previously, as I described beyond the negative zone, material existence becomes irrelevant, and things become just abstract. To understand this, we know that the neutral zone obviously is a singular universe within the exospace. Beyond that, there's a infinite layered stacking amount of them, because it's an entire omniverse. We have the nature of Marvel's cosmology. Even on more basic levels, people should understand that there are layers to this, like the Axis Mundi, but again, it goes to the far shore. Beyond the new exospace, Chavez actually explains that the abstract realms in and of themselves are inherently inaccessible to anything that's science or space and time, which is important to understand, because at this level, you enter the abstract realms, which are dictated primarily by archetypal existence and platonic existence. These things are important because once you reach these realms, you're infinitely inaccessible to these realms. For example, the exospace, which is beyond the superflow of universes, the deep space, for example. And the superflow of universes, honestly, it's still very powerful because it leads into places like the dreamscape, which is dictated by the dream time, which in and of itself is inherently inaccessible. And when you have all of this within a singular thought, that's within a larger thought, and these things stack transfinitely up to the divine creator, who actually the divine creator created Plato. Plato being an aspect of God himself, who also created Adam Padmon, who, like I previously mentioned, is the tree of life, which goes a lot higher than people think it does. Beyond that, when Scryer had actually threatened the divine man thing, which is fallen at Star's power man thing, he's actually threatening Cleo herself, which is in and of itself more like a threat to the creator. However, this is taken out of context, as even when we talk about the creator at a basic level, when you're threatening the nexus and the dream itself, you're threatening the dream state of the creator. And what this means is you're threatening everything to go back to the void that's the mind of the creator, which is explained a little bit in Strange Tale, but we know that the creator dreamt everything, darkness, light, everything. everything essentially gets threatened to go back to the mind of the creator, which is pretty important to understand because the peak of the collective unconscious, which is also the dream time, and it emanates all levels of dream, illusion, reality, unreality, etc., returns back to him. Wanda, having been the absorbed Kathan, and being above characters like the other who can threaten stronger and fight against a relative, or even threaten divine power man thing, really puts into perspective how powerful Wanda is. Again, one of the more basic levels, we don't do the archetypal existence or the layered existence of these things, which definitely would get her a lot higher. But already once you reach the collective unconsciousness and things beyond, like in the outside, for example, the lamp it shouldn't be oblivion, the far shore, you're already layers of the balance, if not infinite or inaccessible layers of the balance. So definitely one that's underrated. I feel like a lot of people don't represent her properly. I think a lot of people maybe put her below even eternity, which is not true. Basic level, but prior to even the father, she won't make it. Eternity of the entire timeline was been explained by Honcho in his video. So this really puts into perspective, I hope, of Wanda's power, and I really hope that people get a better understanding of her, because not a lot of people do actually realize how powerful she really is. That's all I really have on her. My first time ever explaining this, I may be a little bit nervous and everything, but that's about it for me. It's dictated by things like belief, for example, gods, their ethereal forms, and their power on. Just going over like expert, I guess. Is that what you're gonna do? Because I don't know where you're gonna start now.
Yeah, basically, like, what we're gonna tell the audience is like who wins. We're just gonna equate the cosmology. So, like, let's talk about like the DC cosmology and Marvel cosmology. Like a lot of people like try to like equate or say DC is more powerful. And what we're gonna do now, I'm not gonna stay here and start like telling you which cosmology is stronger. I'm just going to make it as simple as possible, right, for the audience. So Marvel DC has the local omniverse now, no longer multiverse or universe, the local omniverse now, which scales each multiverse right now to like baseline out of Russell, which is an amp. All right, you have the bleed out of Verso Plus. Out of Verso Plus has different levels because it does not just jump from out of Verso Plus straight to higher baseline out of Verso. Out of Verso Plus means literally different stacks of out of Verso hierarchies. People do not even know that. So you then have the God Sphere, which just completely transcends that, conceptually transcends it. You could even argue the God Sphere could be baseline. Let's give the God Sphere baseline high alto verso, and I'm being generous here. All right, so we have the God Sphere baseline high alto verso. You have, let's give the Monitor Sphere high alto verso plus. Comic book limbo high alto verso plus. Let's give the sixth dimension baseline boundless. Let's give the source boundless plus an infinite layer to boundless, and there can be infinite stacks of layer. Let's just put one layer into boundless, another infinite layer, one layer into boundless, a transcendental layer into boundless. Let's give you that. So now we have basically boundless plus for like where we can get Zatanna to. Now let's get Marvel. Do you want to handle the Marvel part? I think you could just brief that up and see which one still stacks above the other.
So Marvel universes in general are typically described as transfinite. Doctor Strange actually gives a bit of a hint towards the absolute infinite, applying to universes themselves as mathematics is the language of God himself. So depending on how you scale these things, like absolute infinity, whether or not you consider them to be the highest cardinal or not, you're getting into the realms of outer to even maybe outer, especially when Marvel has the real stats and mathematical numbers, etc. This is one of the talking about the multiverse itself, which is actually encompassed by a universe and more universes. So we can go into the like high outer universal just as a baseline, right? Now, when we go beyond that, we take a look at Ultimates where it's shown the many layers of the universe. For example, separated by the secret world universes, and then we have the neutrals and extra space. You can argue these are inaccessible to one another, but just to be generous to DC, you just say this is like a conceptual transcendence, and they're just layers in the high hours. The layers in the high hour, like however many you want, you call up it's level like 3 or 4 on the generally that type of scale. Beyond that, actually, you have infinitely inaccessible transcendence beyond with the abstract realm, beyond the exospace, which is already as established before, high hour, which will get you actually into boundless. And these dream time itself, the nature of it is a infinitely transcending hierarchy. Well, actually, it's a transfinite hierarchy that is layered and it stacks in all directions, atop, below, and in every direction essentially. These things are like I said, infinitely inaccessible, and they all transcend each other up to characters like the Divine Creator, where you have an inaccessible transcendence from the land of Cunning and Trinity to Oblivion, and same thing with the Far Shore to Oblivion, that goes beyond even that to the mystery. As for example, you have Cleo, Uber, and Headlong, who would scale to the trust side. So these things, like even on a more basic level, have infinite inaccessible transcendences that would all be greater than the next. The gaps are insane. But once you reach things like the outside, you're already layers, and layers into boundless. I think Marvel's Cosmology just, once you reach the outside and arguably even the peak of eternity, which is the dreamscape, you kind of already outclass DC's Cosmology. So that's it for me for the Cosmology, and just a general summation of it.
Yeah. So you can literally see that like this is not even like a battle of like which cosmology is strong. I've been saying this for a long time. Like if you give DC the benefit of doubt, and like I put the God's Fair at high Altoverso, you're not still coming close to Marvel. It's just that bad. Like when you copy like when you compare like large cosmologies with Marvel, you're talking about like SCP. That's like the only cosmology that I can say okay could rival or even be a bit above Marvel. But DCC has a long way to go. Like it has a long way to go, bro. So right. So let's now we know that cosmology wise Zatanna loses terribly. Most of DC just loses to Scarlet Witch. I'm sorry to say. That if you now say let's remove and say okay, no matter what, they're equal stats. Let's compare who has more difficulty in challenging their opponents. Let's talk about Zatanna, for example. It took her several missions, several loss or destruction of the multiverse, to gather an entire team of seriously high ultraversal characters and people nearly as powerful as her to help out with the capture of Upside Down Man. Though she did use her power, her passive ability of belief, because she has one of the greatest archetypal constants in DC. Sorry, I mean the Justice League. Superman is hope, Wonder Woman is faith, Batman is justice, the Flash is friendship, Martian Hunter is the collective unconscious, Cyborg is boom tube, Kendra is totality connection. And you then have Zatanna, who just has to believe. It's insane. And most of DC cosmology is built out of imagination and belief. So she's basically ahead of the cosmology, which is insane. Like, at least to the level of the source. And yeah, that's why I don't know why people don't think about this, but why do you think the Justice League Dark did not fight against the Darkest Knight? They did not. And even the power of the quintessence and the current Wonder Woman is still below that of Zatanna and the Justice League Dark, because the quintessence are implied to be above the Hand, who are above Perpetua, and still, right, the likes of Phantom Stranger was losing to the likes of Nabu, who is one of the greatest sorcerers, who you can say can be coming close to Zatanna. Constant is above Constantine clearly, who can be coming to the level of Upside Down Man. He was even scared of Upside Down Man to start with. So you have like Upside Down Man, who have actually proven several times to be at the level of Perpetua, if not above, and he's boundless. Let's give him that credit. He is actually boundless, right? And it's cool. Then you have Cthulhu. Bro, you want to take over Cthulhu? Yeah, I think you should do that.
Yeah. So Wanda, Wanda didn't even have help finding the food. It's really comical how easily she absorbs it. Really, she I guess with maybe arguably with the help of Doom shielding her for a few moments, she literally just went to his realm and absorbed me entirely. It's pretty ridiculous. Khan, he's like called the god of chaos. He used chaos magic a lot. Even like below characters like the other, and using Pietro as a vessel is able to rewrite, the entire omniverse itself with the blink of his eye. He's able to destroy it at his will. And Wanda prior to that is even able to knock out Mind Pack's Thor from Red Skull. And prior to this, the same Thor was capable of taking mental attacks from the collective unconsciousness with an insane of itself and already beyond the omniverse. Like Wanda by herself without any help, it's just ridiculous. She doesn't need help. I like how Honcho explained this to Kana. It's really a matter of narrative at this point, whether or not she does. Nothing really stopping her. Like for example, in Trial of Magneto, everything is just at her whim. She even took the infinite timelines and made them into a singular composite one and allowed for all the mutants to be reborn. It's pretty insane how strong she really is and how she compares to high tiers in Marvel. So, generally speaking, Wanda definitely, in my opinion, watch it. There's nothing Zatanna really has at this point, at this stage, that can really compare. So that's about it for me. I mean, there's not a lot of instances where Wanda just demonstrates her power that even compares to this level she's at now. Except maybe you have the light force, but beyond that, it's really just a matter of how fast Wanda is. And like I already said, she can react to characters like Thor and Uncanny Avengers and simply blast them away despite needing a little bit of help from Black Bolt. But he helped very minimally. And so she is, in my opinion, definitely taking this win. I don't think Zatanna has anything that really, compares. She is the goddess of chaos now, as Jordan and Khan. She's like the figurehead of it, and the chaos magic is like the consort to Gaia, as explained in Scarlet Witch 2016, where the pantheon of witches, which are the goddess of the pantheon of witches, is actually Gaia herself in a different form, albeit in a ethereal form, but it's still very important to understand chaos magic and its relation to the life force, the electricity and crusade, and even House of them.
Right. So he has really done justice to that, going over the speed and part of like the equal stats, because like if it's equal stat, we equate power and all that. But another thing is certain things like passive and non-passive abilities and negation and all that. And as for speed, it's not even fair because even the likes of like Jai and Iris, the kids of Wally West, could bleed hard, like no problem. And the Justice League Dark. And it's embarrassing because all those people shoot their skill to like really high. But when you talk about like the Flash, that's a whole different story. Drew's power extends like to really into the overvoid. Like the Speed Force goes that far. So like trying to beat Flash at his game is impossible. Like he's the strongest member of the Justice League and almost in the entire of DC. So it's not even close. And his kids are also that powerful. So but still, in comparison, like a lot of people are not ready for this, but the Flash is slow compared to a lot of Marvel characters. Extremely slow. And compared to someone who's like layers into boundless like Wonder, that's slow as fuck. Like Zatanna would not even see her coming. Like even equating speed is almost like, well, okay, almost like unrealistic. But even if we equate speed, what about Hax's BFR? Like Wonder's ability, she like Zatanna like has to speak backwards for her magic to be more powerful and has to believe even more. The moment, and one thing with Zatanna is like this is like taking her into character. The moment she sees something extremely powerful, she gets scared immediately. In fact, she even looks for a way to get help before she takes action. And if she's forced to take action, she does not articulate what she's doing, right? And that is not something you're gonna do with Wanda, bro. Wanda is emotional as fuck. Right there and there, she's going to BFR you. Like, and it's not even funny because she did this. Like, she doesn't waste time, bro. She just got to like Cthulhu and like, bro, I'm fucking absorbing you, and, and it was GG. So like putting them into character is not going to be something really nice for Zatanna to experience. um I mean, Zatanna would need to speak backwards. Like, okay, before she does that, bro, she gets absorbed, or she gets fucking blasted to where only God knows, in probably into a higher plane of existence that she cannot even exist in. So there's so many like risk for Zatanna to go fight someone like Wonder, and Wonder does not joke. She would rip her apart, or probably just drop her with one of the like old ones, probably like Shumagarat or something. And right, so that's it, man. This video is not to bash Zatanna. I actually like a character, and perhaps I'm more of a DC fan, whether anyone wants to like it or not. I enjoy reading DC a lot more than Marvel. They just have better comics, in my opinion. And I wish one day DC could catch up in power, but I don't think that's ever gonna happen. Because Marvel keeps getting more powerful. Very soon, the tier like the House of Ideas may even seem like nothing anymore. Because like a few years ago, the Divine Creator was all that, and now there are things above the Divine Creator. The Beyonders were all that. The Beyonder was all that, but now he's father. So maybe in his return in the Defenders run, he may be something useful. But Marvel just keeps evolving. Like, I don't know how far DC wants to do to catch up. And the DC fans are not like so ignorant. I'm a hardcore DC fan, but you cannot be that ignorant and retarded. But yeah, Wanda decimates Zatanna is not even close. I mean, her son can literally do that. The avatar of the demiurge can take the narratives out of True Form Eternity, who is boundless in his nature. So let's not even go there. The perfect fight would have been Zatanna versus Weekend, and Weekend likely still win. Talk less of Scarlet Witch. It's nice to have you, bro, Coach Master, to do this video. Next video I and Coach Master will be doing would be the Elder Gods video. Well, my personal solo videos, I'm bringing a Thanos video, Dark Side video. I'm working on is Lucifer really the second strongest in DC? I'm working on how really the part 2 of how strong is the presence. I may even do a video on Alien Baylock, but I'm also doing a video of Naomi versus Starbrand. I have a series of videos, bro. I've been consistent. I'm not stopping, bro. Let's go balls deep. I'm really back. Yeah, which is a problem for the community. So yeah, bro, you have anything to say? Really enjoy you for doing this with me. Yeah.
That's really thank you, Andrew, for tuning into this video. Really nice experience. My first time being able to get nervous. I maybe explain a little things to me wrong. I believe I did. But yeah, like Hunter said, we're going to be talking about the Elder Gods soon. We're going to get a lot more in depth, explaining the nature of the Elder Gods and how it relates to the Demiurge and Gaia specifically. But not too much giving out spoilers or whatever. Anyway, that's all I really have to say. Again, thank you for putting me on here.
All right, bro. All right, so that's it. See you next time. Peace.